According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 33% of women and 25% of men have experienced physical violence of some kind by a partner. Also, in the U.S., about 20 people experience physical violence from a partner every minute, which adds up to about 10 million abuse victims every year. These are facts about domestic violence that are sadly true. Part of domestic violence is the violent cycle. Today we will talk about that cycle in depth, how to break it, and what a person or family should do if they are experiencing domestic violence.
The violent cycle is when a person gets gradually more aggressive towards a victim and eventually the person in power lashes out. When they lash out, it is either with words or by physically hitting the victim. After they lash out, the person in power will feel guilty. Eventually, tensions will rise again and the cycle starts over. This is especially dangerous because if kids grow up in this cycle, they will think that violence is the answer and eventually will bring this cycle into their own relationships. 360 Communities is one organization that helps fight against the violent cycle. Their main goal is to provide lasting stability to families, and one way they do so is by providing shelter to women and their children at the Lewis House.
The Lewis House is a shelter for women and children who are escaping their homes from domestic violence. When people are experiencing domestic violence in their homes and escape, they sometimes bring almost nothing with them except the clothes on their backs. Other times, they might have everything packed and ready to go, but they might not have the courage to leave until a few days later, or even a week or two later. Either way, leaving is often the most dangerous time for the victim because the person in power is losing control.
Families typically stay at the Lewis House for about 75 days, depending on the situation. At the shelter, they come and go as they please to places like work and school. After the families leave the Lewis House, the shelter reaches out to them.
The Lewis House in general. There are two shelters. They're both in Minnesota. One is in Eagan and the other one is in Hastings. They work with male victims, but do not house them. They have about 75 people in about 2.5 months. When we visited the shelter in Eagan in May of 2019, there were 37 people staying at the shelter, which was meant for 25, but they still made it work. Also at the shelter, there are 2 teenagers with their moms.
Ending the violent cycle. The violent cycle ruins positive relationships. 360 Communities helps break this cycle to help people have good relationships. However, other people can also help break this cycle. The first step to ending the cycle is to be aware that this is happening. When more people understand that this is an issue happening in real life, people will be more willing to stop the issue. The second step is spreading the word. If we spread the word, people will understand the issue and want to learn more about it. The third step is to take action. Spreading the word is good, but it's not enough. We need to take action to prevent the cycle from continuing on to future generations. One way to take action is if you know someone who needs help, tell them about the Lewis House or another shelter in your area. If you don't know someone affected by violence, you can help local organizations who help fight the issue. One way to help is by donating. Many organizations have a list of items they need on their website.